literally control Fing different things, and you just got to make sure that you're set up for success there.
Live, guys.
You can definitely do that. We're live. Awesome.
Sweet.
All right, let's just give it a second. Just loading the picture up.
When you say Control F, are they pulling it up in like a PDF viewer or something like that, and they're using a shortcut to look for keywords on your resume?
Yeah. So yeah, if it's a PDF, it's a little tricky. It's funny because all of these are actually PDF files. So like one thing that I would recommend is if you're working with a recruiter, at least sending it as a doc file, because sometimes as recruiters are presenting resumes,
guys,
that way. All right, so you can go ahead and take it off then, Rod.
Yeah, all right. So yeah, everyone in the audience, thank you for joining us tonight, and sorry that we had some technical difficulties, but happy to finally be on. And we got John in the house, we got Sebastian in the house, looking to see what exactly makes a resume great. So we'll hear about John's story, and then we'll hear from Sebastian's experience, and hopefully we can shape up your resumes to get you guys some great jobs. So yeah, to get an intro, just John, if you could intro yourself just quickly to the audience.
Sure. Thanks, Rod. I'm really happy to be here. I believe in the concept that you've built with Prentus, and I think it's awesome because it solves a very unique bridge in between bootcamp graduates and then landing that first bit of job. It's kind of a catch-22 to get the first experience if no one will give you a chance with that experience. So
Exactly.
Thank you for having me. I hope I can bring some value to this, share my bootcamp story, stuff like that. So my story is exactly that. I wanted to land a career in tech. I wanted to be a developer. I wanted to learn how to code, put myself in a boot camp, and luckily I ended up enjoying it because truthfully I went in, for a high salary, for a job with benefits, some really cool stuff. After about halfway through the class, I started to apply. I was really, really eager to get a job right away, so I started off with my resume. I really wanted to start applying. Even, Sebastian hit me up on LinkedIn, was like, hey, I kind of see what you're doing. Let's have a chat. Helped me out a little bit there. And my resume was getting ignored a lot. I put in probably 200 applications. I was applying everywhere. I graduated. I still went on 4 months after that. And finally, my dream job came in just after I took, I guess, the right amount of advice from some of my peers, some of the developers in the Orlando network. Shout out to, Lee Warwick from, ODevs, and he's got a podcast, Tech Jr., and a bunch of other really, really nice people in the community who have helped me put my resume to where it is today. And now recruiters won't stop calling me, and I can't get them off my back because I'm really happy with my job. So that's it for me, man. I did the UCF Coding Bootcamp at Trilogy. I listened to Career Services, what they did, but the whole trick of it, and hopefully some answers that will give to you, the viewers today, is how do I set myself apart? How do I make myself really stick out and really look genuine, passionate, and capable of being the candidate that the hiring managers are looking for?
Sounds good. All right, and then Sebastian, you just give us a quick intro.
Yeah, quick synopsis. So at least as it comes to work, I work at a company called Tech Systems. We're a staffing and recruiting company. My specialty, quote unquote, is in software engineering and web development roles, primarily JavaScript and .NET roles. So we're helping out different clients. I live in Orlando, so local clients that you guys would know. I think a lot of the people that might be watching are from the UCF Bootcamp, Disney, Universal, Hilton. But then you're looking at clients out in the West, right? The Facebooks and the Amazons, some companies that I help out as well. So that's kind of the bread and butter. I think you mentioned it, Rod. I've looked at thousands of software engineering resumes at this point, so I could tell pretty quickly. And it's not necessarily if somebody is good or bad, but I feel like the value add here is that I know how recruiters view resumes and hiring managers as well. So looking forward to helping out some people really breaking into the industry, and then in a couple of years, I'll be giving them a call about some roles at Amazon, Facebook, and the rewards here.
All right, awesome. All right, so yeah, let's hop in a little bit deeper into John's history. I know we were talking about before this, but John got some resumes from even like 10 years ago, and it's definitely had a huge evolution. So excited to see that.
Sure. What I'm about to share with you is kind of my evolution, where I started from, and where it is today, to that magic resume that got me where I wanted to be. Can you see my first resume here?
Yeah, you were not.
Yep.
Yeah, right. So this is before web development. I was working in restaurants. You can see I have my name, my address, phone number. I have an objective here, which is okay. And then my work experience is a little sad looking. Not so much like the positions, but like, I don't know, where's my even position? I haven't even looked at this in a couple of years. So these are companies. I don't have any titles here. There's a bunch of white space over here, and then, oh, look, there's more down here. So I don't know, why do I have a 3-page resume when I was like 18 years old? I don't know. Education, cool. Skills, like huge chunk of white space. You know, you can see some of my coding interests there, and everything disappears. Here we go. Fantastic. So yeah, there's one of the first ones. Noteworthy. I'm a musician. I don't know, whatever. Stuff that shouldn't be. Here's the second one. It probably didn't look this bad in the editor I was making it in, but you can kind of, this is proof that you should really look at the formatting of your documents and open them in different files, stuff like that. I don't know how this docx appeared like this, but this is rather ugly. So the lesson there is to make sure you're opening in different, send it as an email to yourself and then open it on your phone, open it with a couple different programs, just to make sure that when your recruiter gets it, it doesn't look like this.
Yeah.
All right. This is my first resume draft that I did in bootcamp. You can see I have a couple of projects here. So this is kind of the organization that we want to follow a little bit, right? I don't have any experience with software engineering or coding or web development, so I'm hoisting my projects up high. I want, if I'm going for a web developer position, at least I have a title here. Remind me not to click anything. I have a title here, some technical skills, my projects. This is good in the way that I want it to be organized, and then I have some other experience for like my serving job because I was a waiter, and then my education bootcamp certificate down here. Still, it's rather ugly, and I'm falling in the pit of suffering from formatting issues.
Yeah.
Next up, really quick, if you could just go back, something that I wanted to interject here that some bootcamp grads may miss on their resume. So the way that recruiters are searching these resumes are going through LinkedIn and their Salesforce systems, and they're putting in different searches, Boolean searches. And what some would do is they'll put in their web developer or software engineer, and then they'll put in all the keywords. So if you see at the very top, John's put full stack web developer, and a lot of bootcamp grads won't have web developer on their resume, because that's normally something you would see in the experience section. If you don't got that experience yet, then you might not have a reason to put web developer there. But definitely recommend throwing it on summary, because you might not come up in different searches where somebody's looking for a junior dev. They're going to look up, web developer and junior and React and JavaScript and all that stuff. But you might not come up because you don't have that piece there. So definitely something important that you want to have, maybe acting in the role before you've got the role.
Definitely double down on that, and stay away from labeling yourself as a junior. If you're a web developer, you're a web developer. It doesn't matter if you got 3 months or a year's experience. Don't label yourself as a junior, because I don't know, Sebastian, maybe I could get an agreement with you. If you see a junior web developer over here and a web developer over there, I'm going to look at that other resume first, right?
Yeah, you don't throw the junior on there. You're just doing the web developer, and they can determine at that point. You don't want to make that determination for them.
Okay. All right, moving forward, this one I put on my third project here. I put some more applications. Maybe I did something different. Oh, look at my link. So this is my portfolio, johnsickles.github.io/hire-john-sickles. I don't know. So I got myself a little short link. I thought it was more professional, bit.ly/johnsickles. Again, more formatting issues. It looks a little clunky. I think this may have even gone down to like a second page down here. Okay, so I moved some things around. I was like, something's not working. So I moved my resume around a little bit more. I added C# and .NET and this package room app that I seriously was just an idea. A resume, a recruiter had called me up and said, hey, C#, .NET. And I was like, sure. I just started learning it last week. So he's like, good. Okay, put it on your resume and add that application that you were talking about. And I was like, but I haven't even started it. And he said, just do it because I want you to get this interview. And I was like, okay. So, and I totally bombed. I got to the hiring manager and he tore me apart with questions about .NET that I had no idea. So the lesson here is don't put stuff on your resume if you're just trying to fill space. Only put the skills that you're actually really good at. If you're coming from one of the boot camps, it should be, JavaScript, Node, Express, Mongo, stuff like that you really, really know, have been working with. I was trying to fake it till I make it here, and I failed miserably.
Yeah, not only do you get in situations like that where you're kind of propped up to fail, but it dilutes the rest of the stuff that you feel really good about, right, on your resume. And that's definitely something you don't want, where somebody's looking at your resume and they're not entirely sure what you want to work with, what you're strongest with. So instead of helping you out, it's actually diluting the resume.
Yeah. Yeah. He asked me a C# question I didn't know, and he didn't want to listen to anything else I said after that. True that. Okay. Yeah. All right. Now on this one, you can see I actually have some experience. I went out and I got this little contract role where I was like writing some test scripts. I was really, really lucky to get this like part-time hourly contractor thing. Hurrah, but it still wasn't a job. The lesson here I want to be is if there is anything you can do for somebody, whether it's helping a small business build a better website or helping a friend with their app or, like what I did, finding some really short contractor freelance work, do it and get it on your resume, because this was a turning point where people really started to see experience, and then it really started to turn heads a little bit. I know the whole point of here is I need to get my good resume so I can get that experience, but I guess the lesson I'm trying to say is any little bit counts. All right. And then this was the revolution, right? I got a bunch of experience and a bunch of advice from other people. And I had this paper printed out and I was taking it to like meetups and hackathons. And I was posting it on LinkedIn being like, hey guys, please give me some resume review. What do you think? And they were like, yeah, this is ugly. It's dumb. It's got a bunch of stuff like I don't know. Get rid of all this extra stuff. You don't know PHP. You don't need C#. Like, I really didn't know that stuff. I just spent a week on it, maybe. Mongo Atlas, like, what is any of that? So really focus on your technical skills again. Get a title up here somewhere. You can see now I do have a domain. So now I really started to look professional, even though it's the same exact website. You literally just spend a couple hours to figure it out, and you really look like a web developer, right? This is kind of cluttered. This is awfully repetitive. HTML, CSS, Bootstrap, JavaScript, these are very repetitive. You just got to hit that keyword once and really start to look at that. This is good, but still, do it better, basically. So I went on and I found a template, right? I didn't just try to do it myself in Word. I went and actually found a resume template, and this kind of came out the other end. You can see, too, I changed my title from freelance web developer, even though that's what I was doing. I was freelancing for this company in my free time. I actually started looking up what exactly I was doing, and I was able to assign a title to it, QA engineer. Now, how much better does that sound than freelance web developer?
more specific.
Right. Number 2, the title. Now I have an actual title. I am a full stack developer. This was one of the important things that I got out of the advice that I was given. See, there's no title here. I don't know who I am. I don't know what you do. And this paragraph is too big for me to read. I just want to know, what do you do? So here I have in blue, full stack developer. Awesome. You can see my skills are a bit more focused. JavaScript, Node, my education. And then again, if you don't have any experience, this is a great way to sort of fill some space as your accomplishments. I spoke at this thing, I went to this hackathon, whatever, So anything that has to do with code that I was getting out there and put my name out, I was able to speak about, you can kind of add in there. I was a TA as well, too, so that helped put a little space there. And then I just focused on my projects again. You see it's not so repetitive with the HTML, CSS, Bootstrap. I'm a bit more specific for, what the project is, what I did, and the technologies used. This is really important, technologies used, because like Sebastian said, these are the keywords that recruiters are going to be control Fing for. They're going to try to look up, Node or, Express or whatever. That's.
Could you just zoom in on that one project just so?
Sure.
More easy to read.
Let me go ahead and open it up over here.
Yeah.
There we go. All right, so very precise summary, a coding-themed arcade to familiarize others with today's terms and tech. It's an arcade that kind of has to do with code, right? Oh, man, one thing I'm noticing, I don't have any links here. Where's my links? All right, well, definitely get your links, your code, your repo, and your hosted site. I don't know why they're not here. Lucky for me, I think this was the resume that got me my job. But yeah, it looks a little better than the other ones. I really want to get to giving everyone else's review, so let me get to my last one, and then we'll jump over to everyone else's. Okay, now you can see this is today's resume. This is my current job, Flow Sports. I landed a QA Engineer 2 position. I have these like action verbs, create, collaborate, build. These are really important. Look at my title too, full stack developer, but I'm also a software engineer, a quality advocate, and an educator, right? JavaScript, Node, React, these are the keywords you're looking for. Look at my beautiful links right here that you can click on, my hosted domain, a really clean LinkedIn URL. I was looking at the resumes earlier, so I'll repeat this later, but you can actually get a custom LinkedIn URL. Should look like your name, and that's it. It shouldn't have a big long string of random characters after that. I added some more accomplishments down. I spoke at a couple more things. I did a couple more hackathons. And then here we are with my links. Nice and clean. We can even zoom in on that. But, it was getting a little cluttered down there too. So you notice I kind of dropped off the text used. I don't have my tech stack here anymore, but that's just because I wanted to focus more on my actual experience. Now I have a job, and then the projects kind of are proof of concept that I'm passionate about code, and I do this on the side. You don't want to call this project 1 from bootcamp X. You want to call it, this is what I built. I'm a developer. I'm passionate. This is cool. Never call it project 1. Never call it homework assignments, anything like that. Own it,
Yeah, the resume looks really clean, and like also like the project, the fact it's like one sentence, that's going to be much easier for people to read through. I know a lot of people like to go like deep into it because they're excited about it, but I feel like the shorter it is, the easier that someone can absorb it.
Yeah.
When you're breaking, real quick, I will say like you do want to break down, and this is gonna counteract what you said, John, earlier a little bit, but as a dev, you don't want to seem redundant. Because if you're a front-end JavaScript dev, it seems redundant to put in JavaScript, HTML, CSS for one project, and then the next one it's the same thing. Like that's not going to change, right? But it is important to, once you've broken down what the project is and what it is, then letting the reader know what you used. And a real simple formula to follow that is just like, did X that's whatever you accomplished, right? That's that action statement that you mentioned with why. So you're building out front end components with JavaScript or whatever you do for, I don't know, landing pages for the marketing side, right? And then you're doing that for just literally everything. Just like building out Angular components or whatever technologies you have in that skills section. You want to make sure that you're saying what you did with them and what the result was, because you don't want people to have to guess what you were using.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, what happens is that the water gets muddled a little bit. Where think back to that first or the second resume you had, John, where you had all the technology, you had PHP, C#, all these things. So what recruiters and hiring managers have to do now is they think if they're not breaking down exactly what they did or how they used that technology, it might just be something they threw in there. It might just be something that was in the environment or they did a Google search about. But if you say, hey, I built out these components of Angular for this marketing project, it's okay. That's not just PHP in the skills section or just C# in the skills section, right? You're breaking it down, what you did with it. Which is really, really important to throw on there for your work experience or projects, whatever it may be.
I really like that formula. Did X with Y for Z.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll write that down for later.
Well, one question from the live. They're asking how essential is a summary in resumes these days?
It's not very essential. It's almost like a shorter version of what a cover page is, and cover pages are almost always to answer questions that a person looking at your resume might have. One of the most common questions they might have are if you've had a long layoff, or if you have long big breaks between jobs, and then you can kind of explain why that is and make sure you're getting past that hurdle in that short summary. And if you're coming out of boot camp, you can definitely use that summary as another selling point as to why they would hire you for that role. I would say overall, it's just a tool that you use, just like a cover letter, depending on your situation. It can be good, but I don't think that it's necessary per se.
I got a follow-up question for Sebastian too. How long is too long? Because that was one of the criticisms I got was your summary is way too long. People are going to get bored reading it.
Yeah, I think I'll be honest with you. Most recruiters don't read it, so you don't want it to be too long. When you think about that second resume you had though, and under your work experience, you had no web developer or software engineer title at all, though that was really critical, I feel like, to getting pulled up in some searches. Where, yeah, like you see that's the only part where you had web developer. And I'll tell you guys, when I'm searching for something that I would do in a Boolean search is make sure that somebody has web developer or software engineer on their resume, because sometimes somebody will have JavaScript, .NET, C#, all that stuff on their resume, but they might be in test, or they might be a QA. There might be all these other things where I'm trying to eliminate those people and get to the people that are the web developers, right? So that's important. If you're a bootcamp grad, throwing that in there in the summary, if you're not able to put that in under professional experience.
All right. So yeah, let's go hop into some of the audience's resumes. Not sure what order this is in, so we'll go through it. There's some data science resumes in here as well, and also designer. So we'll go through some developers first to stay on that, and then we'll look at some others as well.
Cool. This is the first one in queue. I got Devry Lewis, full stack developer. Is this cool to start with?
Yeah, and if you just zoom in a little bit.
Sure. Let me open it in another thing here. Awesome.
Perfect.
All right. Well, right off the bat, do you mind if I go first and then Sebastian, you'll follow up?
Yeah, you can go ahead.
cool. So, ooh, even better. Nice. Okay, so I like the name up top, the title, really good. These are really awesome. I like how that's kind of specific, and it actually hyperlinks to it. So compliments on that. You don't have the whole HTTPS, whatever. So I think that looks really clean. Portfolio, awesome. I like it a lot. So I mean, summary looks good. This looks very, very similar to mine. The front end, back end. I like how the skills are kind of set up there by front and back. Related experience, you know, web developer training. That's really cool. I would drop training.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to keep it because your employer's making you identify with that. But that was one thing I was like, I'm not a freelance web developer. I want to get in this. So it'll make you look a little more professional. It's not necessary, and no one's going to yell at you for taking it off. You got length of time here. You got text used. I really like to lead with a commanding verb, you know, so like driven or created or mastered or something like that. You know, if you just go remote web development program, maybe that's the title of your thing here. But I like designed, really cool. Here's some projects that you worked with at the thing, and they all got links. Wow, this is actually really cool. Going down, and then education. You got Masters in Music, Bachelor in Music. Very cool. Cello. That's amazing. I mean, I'm just kind of impressed. So let me go back down. Here we go. Second page. Select additional experience. I don't know what the thoughts are on 1 page versus 2 page. I think if it's not related, then you don't need the second page. But maybe this is here, and it's actually titled correctly, where it's, you know, select additional, like, you know, if you're applying to a web developer program, you don't need to submit this. But I don't know. Sebastian, what do you think?
So just where you mentioned about the first 1 page or 2 page, I wouldn't worry about that too much. And what I mean when I say that is that people have overthought it and taken off good experience from the resume because they really, really want to be 1 page. So if you're on the fence between 1 page and you have a full 2 pages, just don't worry about it. It's probably better to have 2 pages and try to compress 2 pages worth of experience into 1. So summary is good. Everything looks good. Skills, I really like it when devs do this, breaking it down, what's front end, what's back end. Same thing that you're mentioning, full stack web developer, that's fine. You can just leave it as that. And it's the same idea, very, very simple formula, like did X with Y for Z. So if you're looking at that first point and thankful, I know that it's just a program, but created, created web applications in a remote environment with JavaScript, HTML, CSS, SQL, and associated frameworks. And then when you look at the second page, you're so close because you say design mobile first full stack applications, right? But what's in that stack? What are you building it with, right? So you got the did X, like you did that, you built out these mobile applications, but what did you do with? And you never want somebody looking at your resume to either have to guess things or just have questions on the table. Because I don't know what stack you're using for these mobile apps. It'd also definitely be beneficial to break down like what the mobile app actually was, right? Because you have enough space on your resume. You had 1.5 pages, so it's not like you're limited by space. You could put in, expand on that, have it be a full 2 pages where you're breaking down what the mobile app was, what the stack was, what you were using, and then going from there. Practice log, you did like you're breaking down what you used for, right? React, Node, Express, Postgres. So I feel like that's fine. You could obviously expand on that. Think about what you did with React, right? Every technology, every software language that you used, you can build out that same sentence structure that I told you, right? What did you do with React? Did X with React for Z, did X with Node for Z, and then you could just go down that list with every single technology that you used, and suddenly your resume gets built out super quickly. And then when the recruiter goes in, if I were looking at this resume and I was trying to hire a React dev, I would Control F, React, and from there I would try to gather what you've actually used React for, what you've done with it. Same thing with Node, like, are you creating web services with Node? I would figure that if I Control F Node, I'm not going to get that information. So maybe I'll go on to the next resume, because there's multiple ways you can use these things. So I would just break down how you use everything. Besides that, everything looks good. Education straightforward, and then additional experience is also pretty useful to have.
Two questions for me on this. So one, I know before with the projects to not say, hey, I did this at bootcamp, but to just say, hey, I did this. Like, these are my projects. So you think that she should make that change?
Yeah, definitely. So they're breaking down the projects.
Like the projects completed at Thinkful. But I feel like it could be better highlighted as, hey, here are my projects. This is what I've done with these technologies.
Yeah, I mean, I would. That's a good question, because you do want to break it down by project. I think the way that they have it set up is fine. Maybe like you're doing. Yeah, I think the way that they have it set up is fine if they expand a little bit on what they did with everything, so they don't have to put it all the way at the top for Thinkful, because they did break it down, but just breaking it down by technology, what they did with each one instead of just a stack. I know that it's really convenient, and as a dev, it can seem like it's redundant if you're breaking down what you used each technology for, but it's very, very useful for the people that are looking at your resumes, which normally aren't technical in nature.
Mm-hmm. And then the second question from the audience also is just thoughts on including links versus writing out the URLs, which I guess you touched on before a little bit.
I like this setup because it's both. You can go to linkedin.com/in/this value, and it'll bring you there. Same thing with this, github.com/this. So I like how this is both. This is the only one where if I printed it out on paper, I wouldn't know how to get to your site.
Yeah.
So if the recruiter printed it out on paper, or the hiring manager printed it out on paper, and they're handing it to somebody and they're saying, hey, look at this person, see if they're good, I'm not going to know how to get to your website. So a professional domain, dlewis.com or whatever, dlewis.dev or something cool, where you get that. That's the only shortfall there. But other than that, I really, really like the setup.
I think most candidate tracking systems would be able to pull the link from there. But I can see somebody running into some issues where if they're applying for a role and the resumes are just getting parsed through automatically through the system, it might not pick up their LinkedIn, or it might not pick up their GitHub portfolio and have that set up. And you want to make it as frictionless as possible for the people looking at the resume. So like they might not have their LinkedIn present there, because not always are they looking at your resume, but sometimes they're looking at the system that they use, like their Salesforce or their CRM, right? Where it's listing everything out. It's taking information from the resume and put it in the format that the company uses. You might not pull a link that way, right? So just something to think about. And on that topic, I have seen some people put in links and contact information and things like that as images, which I would definitely not do. I don't know. I guess there's maybe some like resume building applications or something like that where it ends up being like blocks of images on the page, but I try to avoid that. at all costs, because that would definitely not get pulled into the system.
Gotcha. So one other person commented from the audience, and I think I'll have an answer for this also. But they say in my summary, I say like in the summary saying I produce successful individual and group projects at coding bootcamp while adjusting to rapid learning curves. And like what I would say for that is it doesn't really tell me anything about what you actually did. So like seeing individual and group projects at coding bootcamp doesn't tell me what you learned in the bootcamp, what kind of projects you created. So I think like try to be more specific with that, but you guys can also comment.
Yeah, what were those projects, right? Yeah, instead of saying individual projects, sole creator of like web applications, something like that, things that people are going to be looking for, right? Projects, again, like you were saying, doesn't really mean anything.
And touching on that too, you don't always, I don't know, maybe Sebastian, you can get some insight with it too. You don't always need to label yourself as a bootcamp graduate, because it might put you in a pool or group of people who's just another bootcamper. If you see the same bootcamp and the same technology, I think what people are looking for is passion, and they're looking for ownership. So if you got projects that you made in or out of bootcamp, you don't need to say, I did this in bootcamp. You can just say, I built this with this technology and it serves this purpose. Not to be repetitive, but in your summary, I wouldn't say graduated bootcamp to build this. I would say I am a developer that built this.
Yeah, exactly. And you want to highlight what you've built and how you use the things that you learned. What I'll see oftentimes, it's like learned MERN stack at UCF bootcamp. It's like, well, that doesn't tell me that much, right? What did you use it for? What did you actually learn? What did you create? So instead of saying like, hey, I learned the MERN stack, instead of that, it's like, hey, I built a web application where the front end was React, the back end was Node, and this is what I did with it. So kind of the same idea there.
I did find an if you're gonna do JavaScript, this is upper camel case, S lower case. I had to find something wrong because I just love this resume too much. All right, I want to be cognizant of people's time, if that's all right with you guys.
Let's go next.
Move on to the next.
Yep.
Awesome. I like how these are coming with color built in, A lot of these are just black and white, so it's good to see that. I'll just fly through. I don't want to repeat myself. Hopefully that you heard what I said about the first resume, and we can carry it over to all of these following, maybe about the links, but like Sebastian said, they might be able to be pulled out if you're using something like the ATS or something like that. No title. I don't know who you are. I don't know what you do. Are you a developer? Are you a data analyst? Are you a manual QA person? I have no idea. I do see the tech stack, which is really cool. Very precise, which I like. React, Redux, Ruby, SQL. So this really shows off your stack, and it gets to the point. Technical projects, you got your links. I like how the texts are bold. Build, styled, applied. I really like these implemented. These are like action verbs here. I love that a lot. But again, there's no title. What did I know that you probably worked on this project, and it's using the stack, but what did you specifically do? Did you build this by yourself? If so, you can put something like lead developer or something here. If you were the only person, do lead developer. If you were working with a team and you did all the backend stuff, put backend developer. Experience might be a little unrelated. So manager, assistant, intern, what did you do? You did meetings. Oh, you worked with QA. I don't know if that's software. Interpreter, that's probably good to have. But you see how all this experience, none of it is really related to web development or software engineering or whatever you're trying to do. So I would blow up these a little bit, put those keywords, put those titles, and then maybe push the experience down. Ooh, hackathon. See, if you're going to these, I would even bump these up.
Yeah.
right? Because this is the focus. This is the meat and potatoes that I want. You're a developer. Oh, you go to hackathons? Cool. Now I get it. You did the Flatiron 15-week? Awesome. Quirky fun facts. It's funny. Human robot. Are you a human robot? Did you build a human robot? Cool. That's all I got. I love it.
Yeah, it looks good. I like that they've got links to the front end and the back end. I'm curious if that would pull up code.
Yeah, this is a GitHub front end. Yeah, there's stuff.
Solid.
Back end. Sweet. I like the README. I'm not going to talk about GitHub presence for this particular thing, but READMEs are important, and this looks really good for that kind of stuff. But anyway.
It's solid. Yeah, I don't think I've seen anybody link out the front end and the back end separately like that. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, I think it looks solid. Maybe I would just switch out some things. I feel like they did a really, really good job. This same idea that I have been saying, like, you look at the first thing, it's like, okay, if you've got Redux in your skills, that doesn't tell me what you've done with it. But when I look at this, oh, you implemented the front end with Redux for state management. Okay, cool. I know what you did with Redux. Ruby on Rails, I don't know what you did with Ruby on Rails. Oh, wait, you built the API backend. Okay, I got you now. I'm getting what you're doing there. And then they did that with every single thing, and it doesn't look repetitive, right? Like you see the first project, you've got React.js there, you got Ruby. Second project, React.js, Ruby again, and then the third project, Ruby again. But it doesn't seem repetitive. It's just telling you what they did with Ruby for each project, right? So it looks solid. I would say maybe if you can expand on the hackathon and tech conferences, and maybe you don't have to substitute necessarily your experience for that. You could technically have a 2-page resume, but I feel like that would be more helpful than what you got currently. I feel like there are some jobs where non-technical experience will come into play and could be useful, but I feel like that's the exception and not the rule. So I would definitely expand on the hackathon stuff and maybe substitute that for what's in the experience section. But besides that, it looks solid.
I 100% agree with that. Bring the hackathons up and then list out what did you build in that hackathon. It is just more, web developer experience if that's the position you're going for. Awesome.
Yep. So one question from the person they asked, I don't know if I should leave in dates of graduation due to my age of 41 years. I was afraid I'd be opening myself up to age discrimination. What are your thoughts?
That's a good point. I feel like oftentimes it doesn't really play a factor, but I feel like maybe if you want to be safe, maybe I can see some hiring managers looking at that as a factor. So I would call an audible on that one. I would say maybe it's a 50-50. It depends on what the rest of your resume looks like. But I feel like, honestly, having it on there really shouldn't hurt you that much. Maybe like 1 out of 1,000 situations it would.
Yeah.
I'm going to point out the unsavory answer, what you don't want to hear. And the answer is yes, there is ageism, sexism. There's people suffering from, being judged rather quickly. So I'll have to agree with, being conscious of dates, being conscious of putting your photograph on your portfolio. That's not something I would put on my portfolio just because there are these factors in today's world where, people do make that judgment, and it's unfair and it sucks. But I would leave off, later dates and photographs and any other discriminatory identifiers, and really just push your passions over everything. But
yeah. So exactly. the next resume, which is the orange one for data scientists, that's who actually asked that question. So I guess we'll hop into that next. I'm guessing Sebastian will have more feedback here, and then I can also harp a little bit since.
Yeah, Sebastian, why don't you go first?
Let me just look through it really quickly.
I love the title.
Yeah.
I would say just like looking at it really quickly, it is a little light on content, and that may be weighing heavier on my mind because of the big orange blocks that seem to be taking up a lot of space for me. I would try to add a little more content on there. Same idea. You're going down your projects. What'd you use Python for? How'd you use pandas? How'd you use Scalera, linear regression, all that stuff? I don't know if you were working with it. Maybe you were working in a team where other people were working with it. So it's just like questions are the biggest thing you want to avoid, because it might just be something that you just got to throw in there. But for a lot of hiring managers, it ends up being red flags that they'll just go on to the next resume. They say, I need somebody that has done, some things with Scalera, but I don't know what you've done with it exactly. So let me just go to the next resume that breaks it down clearly for me. That way there's no guesswork involved. Because they're getting so many resumes, like you have to make it as frictionless as possible for them. Tell them, hey, this is my experience. This is what I've done with these technologies. And then from there, like that's how you're going to get to that interview stage a lot quicker. Because when you have it in this way, it just leaves a couple of questions up where you got to think every technology, every software, anything that you got on your resume, you got to have at least one sentence breaking down how you've used it. Because then you run into this scenario where recruiters are thinking of John Sickels that they spoke with a couple months ago that had C# and PHP on their resume, but hadn't done anything with it. So they're thinking, well, maybe Randolph, same situation. Maybe he just threw it on there, and I don't know because I don't see what you did with it. So just keep that in mind for everything that you're throwing on there, wherever you can break down how you used it, including it.
Yeah. Well, one thing I will say on the skills part for data science. So right now, just like random kind of bullet points, but in order to make someone read it really quickly and understand it, try to group it by kind of each part. So maybe you have supervised learning. Okay, I know random forest. I know logistic regression. Hey, I know these statistical packages. So, but like group it up by headings. That way, it's more easily scannable. And then also on the projects, it's like let's see the tech on the second line, like the last line. It's good because like it's like the same format for each one. So those are two things I would say.
I didn't touch up on the education part. I don't think it takes away from your resume not having it on there. So if you feel more comfortable not having the dates on there, that's perfectly fine. I feel like it doesn't take away from your resume. So feel more comfortable, even if it's that 1 out of 1,000 chance where it is getting you one step forward, then by all means you can remove it because it's not taking away from your resume.
Yeah.
Cool.
Let's see how many more resumes we
Awesome. Beautiful. I'll agree with the orange bar and the random skills, but I do have to commend on the organization. I really like the flow of it all. Summary, skills, projects, and then experience and education. That's perfect. Let's close some of these so I can get on to the next one. Got 4 more left. We'll squeeze in real quick.
Just really quickly for Randolph, he's been in a teaching role for 7 years, and it would have been pretty easy for him to expend a lot of space highlighting all that teaching experience. But I feel like he recognized, hey, this teaching role probably isn't going to get me closer to a data science role. Let me minimize that, expand everything else it's data science. And that's something that a lot of people that are in boot camps or have experience in other fields, like that's something you want to think about. If it's not getting you closer to the interview and the role that you're trying to get to, then try to pull back a little bit of taking up too much space for those non-technical roles, such that you can really highlight the projects and then everything else that you've done.
Cool. I did want to pick up the speed a little bit, just so we can get it all in the hour. Don't feel like I'm not giving the next couple of resumes as much attention, because I hope that you gained the value from the earlier resumes reviews that we've done to then implement them into yours. So right off the bat for this one, the links, I'd like to see a domain for your portfolio. So Priya mahalanobis.com, right? Instead of this Heroku app. This automatically points you out as a junior. I don't know how to host a website, you know? The LinkedIn, same thing. Get rid of the string. You can do a custom LinkedIn, link right here. Yeah, I do like how you have your title there. I like MERNstack, CRUD applications. I like your skills. You got a bunch of projects, but like we said earlier, you know, we want to know what you build. I mean, there's some in here, MySQL, MERN, API CRUD, you know, but still, these are like a website, a application. I would like to lead with more action verbs. You know, what problem did you solve? Yada, yada, everything else we've said so far. Hopefully that you've gained some value with those. Shout out UCF. I did UCF too. Woo! I think I recognize this glitter one from the Sebastian was even there too at the demo day at Topgolf, right?
Yep, yeah.
So yeah, I think I've seen this one in person. Really impressive website. I really like it. So, you know, put more your stack, put more your title, your action verbs here. Same. I really like the organization of it. You know, you don't have a lot of experience, but you want to focus on the projects that you've done. But maybe you don't want to do too many, right? Because I'm not going to go through and look at 6 different projects. And then after this, it really makes it start to look like homework assignments. Instead, choose like 2 or 3 and then really compound on them. I don't know, maybe Sebastian, you'll disagree with me, but if I'm looking at these bullets like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, they really just more look like assignments and less like things that you've built on your own and, you know, are passionate about and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's just not comprehensive enough. It's one bullet point. So almost inherently, you kind of feel like it was a small task because it's just one bullet point, right? And the same thing that I've been digging in on is how do you use the technology? What do you do with it? So it's a MERN application. Okay, you can kind of infer that they're the one that created it, but what you do with React, what you do with Node, you can, you know that you use React and Node, but were you just working on the front end? Were you just working on the back end? Were you doing everything? Because you can't really tell, right?
I want to compare this with an earlier one too. If I'm looking at projects and then I got these 6 bullet points and look at this one where it says related experience, projects versus experience. And then this one's like, okay, you honestly had me fooled for a little bit. I thought this was an actual job that you had for a year, which was really cool because it made you look like, you know, that was experience. Instead, this is projects, you know, going back to the point where, you know, don't downplay them to be assignments and really build them up to be like, yeah, I built these because I'm awesome and this is what it does and this is what I use. All
right, I think we have time for maybe one quick one. If we just go to the designer one, just to have a little variety.
We are going to designer, developer.
One, yeah.
Designer, cool. Yeah, I saw the other 2 developer ones. Sorry we skipped you, but same as what we said before. Okay, cool. Let me look at this one. I feel like you could blow up your name to be a bit bigger and then have your title underneath instead of just side by side, but that's just me. That's just if you're focusing on user experience design. sorry, a little feedback there. I would put the name a bit bigger and then your title underneath.
One thing I'll say, because since I've hired designers in the past, like if I'm looking at a resume and it's a designer, I think the design of the resume is really important.
Yeah. Yeah, some of those so I'll do real quick. I said that one-page resumes aren't a big issue. I've had UX designers get passed on if their resume is more than one page. So I would think about that a little bit heavier if you're a designer. I've had a manager tell me if they can't tell me what they've done in one page, then they're not a great designer. So I would think about that. I would say like just something that catches my eye off the bat is the spacing is a little off. I feel like there's like a random amount of spaces between different jobs. I feel like between Bed Bath & Beyond and Sunset Point, that is more space than between Hand and Stone and Bed Bath & Beyond. In education, between Team Treehouse, Bootcamp, and University of Virgin Islands and military experience, like they're all different spacings, which throws it off a little bit, especially for a designer role, if you guys get what I'm saying.
These are on different levels too. See, work experience education's a bit lower.
Yeah.
That's just being picky, keen eye for detail. But most importantly, the content is lacking from this is your projects. If I'm hiring you as a UX designer, you have 75% of this resume is unrelated experience. So look at everyone else's that we've reviewed so far and get your projects and your hackathons and your, anything related to UX design up top, nice and big. And then throw the unrelated resume. I would just put the most recent one, at the bottom. Yeah. With your education, and then throw up your projects up top, because I don't see any UX design skills on this at all.
You got to think let's say somebody's hiring a UX designer. They need somebody that has Sketch experience, Adobe XD experience. They're going to Control F Sketch. They're going to Control F Adobe XD. And then it's only going to come up in the skills section or tools section. And it's the same idea. They're going to assume that you haven't done anything with it really. Else it would be expanded upon somewhere else. Because a lot of people, again, you're throwing in random skills or random tools that maybe you did a little bit of something with, but they need somebody that's really their focus on. So think about like, hey, I want to get a job where I'm working with Sketch, I'm working with Figma. Like you really got to expand on that on your resume, even if it's your own projects, freelancing, work. I mean, like school projects, whatever it is, just at least showing like what have you done with Sketch, what have you done with all of these different tools.
All right.
I'd like to see a portfolio too, just as my last point. If you got UX design experience, you may not have full-on web dev experience, but you can easily whip up like a WordPress or something and throw some of your stuff in a portfolio, via drags.com or whatever.
Okay. All right. That was very, very insightful. Been getting a lot of good comments on the YouTube feed. Not sure if you guys can see it. Yeah. Just to sum everything up. Thank you again, John, Sebastian, and where can people connect with you guys if they want to learn more about you?
Yeah, hit me up on LinkedIn, Sebastian Cuadros, Cuadros. I mean, you've got it there on the description. So if you guys send me a LinkedIn invite, I'll make sure to connect with you guys.
Priya, I'll reach out to you about reliable domain service. Heroku will time out after 30 minutes of inactivity. So you can actually set up a cron scheduler to hit your Heroku site every 30 minutes so it stays active. So as soon as you click on it, it shows. Because Heroku will turn your server off if no one's on it, right, to save money. So if you are going into an interview, make sure you're hitting your Heroku links right before you walk in. That way when they click it, it loads right away.
All right. So yeah, everyone, as soon as this is done, the recording should just get uploaded to the channel, so you'll be able to watch it later. And then you'll be able to see any sort of nuggets you might have missed before. Join us in the Prentus community if you're not in it already. It's prentus.co/community. It's free, and we'll have a lot more events like this. Hopefully, our guests will be as awesome as these guys. Otherwise, have a good night, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Rod. Thanks, Sebastian. Thanks, everyone.